and welcome to Up&Up Wellness Parenting Parachutes, little tidbits to help you parent, help your kids be parented better, and help you keep your calm as you parent your kids.
That's important.
Yeah,
It helps.
there's a quote. I'm not going to get it right, but I think it's Jane Goodall who worked with chimpanzees.
Hmm.
And she said that one thing that chimpanzees has taught me is that parenting can be fun,
Mm.
which I just thought was so interesting. Chimpanzees have to parent their young, and apparently they do it in a real playful, fun way. And the kids learn, they learn how to be grown up chimpanzees, so it must
I
work
like that.
somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So today I wanted to talk about how to encourage your child to learn something new or
Mm.
encourage your child as they're learning something new. Because I think so often kids try something and say, I can't do it, or so and so
It's
can do
too
it better.
hard.
Yeah. And most things aren't hard at first.
Oh yeah. Think
Yeah.
about think about babies as they're learning to crawl. They don't enjoy it. They do not like
Yeah.
it. It's a lot of work. I
Right.
think the only reason that we ever learn to walk, crawl, and then walk is because we get tired of having to wait for someone else to carry us to what we want.
We're impatient. I can see that. That's probably how I learned a lot of things is because I wanted it done and nobody was doing it. So I got to figure it out myself.
I will
Yeah.
say that I do have a couple of nieces who, as babies, they literally just wanted to be independent. They didn't want people to carrying them around, and that's why they learned to
Ah,
walk so early. But I
yeah.
also have a nephew who despised tummy time for everything in his little body. And he
Oh,
hated it. He would not cooperate. He would not stay on his tummy. He'd roll himself over or whatever, but he wouldn't learn to crawl.
huh.
So, yeah, he fought it
And
tooth and nail.
and can he walk now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's 13 now and walking and talking and jumping and climbing and all the wonderful things that kids do.
And actually, that's one good point is that um, sometimes kids just their brains or their bodies aren't quite ready to do something,
Yeah,
and that's okay.
true.
Some babies learn to walk at 10 months, some learn to walk at 15 months. If they're going to walk, they'll learn it before they're 13, I'm pretty darn sure. So we tend to get frustrated when things don't happen in the time frame we think they should happen.
Very
But
true.
yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of any of us who've spent any time around the educational sphere or even medicine, we learn about the developmental stages of kids and
Hmm.
the averages of when kids do what. And a lot of times we get stuck in, but he's supposed to do this by 3 years old. He has to do this by 3 years old. And if he doesn't, and we forget that that is an average, not a
Hmm.
absolute goal line has to happen.
Yeah. And
So having grace for ourselves as well as our babies.
yeah. Yes, it is an average, not an ideal even.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
like height.
Hmm.
There's nothing value-wise or fundamentally wrong with being shorter than the average height or taller than the average height. They're all fine.
Yeah.
It's not the ideal to be the average. So you touched on right away the very first thing that helps kids learn new things is to show respect for their struggle, that it is hard to learn new things.
Mm.
And you can say, riding a bicycle is hard to learn at first.
And scary.
Dri Yeah, and scary. Baking a cake, it takes some concentration, or doing long division or whatever it is. It's hard when you first learn new things.
Hmm.
So there's a saying, and the number always changes, and it's about Thomas Edison. When he invented the light bulb, he said he failed many, many times.
Hmm.
And when people ask him, how did it feel to fail so many times before you finally succeeded in inventing the light bulb? And he said, I didn't fail. 99 times, and sometimes it's 1,000 times, and sometimes it's 50 times. The number changes. I don't know what his actual quote was, but we'll call it 99. He says, I didn't fail 99 times. I discovered 99 ways that a light bulb wouldn't work. So, yeah.
It's a much better outlook, I think.
Hmm. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to go through those, what some people might call failures, to get to the desired result, and to be okay with that, and to let your kid feel okay with that. Part of learning a bicycle is falling off a bicycle, and part of learning math is getting answers wrong, and part of um, you know learning to walk is falling, and part of uh, you know learning to read is stumbling over words. And
Hmm.
that's not a failure, that's a step in the process of success. As you're doing that, one great way to do that is to look back. No matter how old your child is, there's always something they struggled with earlier.
Hmm.
So you can say to a 2-year-old, you didn't used to be able to walk, and it took you forever. And we remember the first time you just stood on your feet, and you stood for 3 seconds, and it was so amazing. And then you fell down on your butt, you know, and you can tell your 16-year-old, I remember when you were 12 and you struggled with this subject at school, and now it's so easy for you. But now you're doing algebra, and now algebra is hard.
Yeah,
But 3 years ago, division was hard, and now division's easy. So that's just the process of learning. So kind of just normalizing that that's how people learn, is it's a struggle at first. A great way to encourage children, and I think adults love to hear this too, is to let them overhear you complimenting them. So to let them hear you say to a friend, my child is learning Spanish and didn't know any words in Spanish, and now I don't even understand what they're saying. Sometimes they know so many words in Spanish,
yeah.
you know. Um,
Hearing you brag
so,
about them to others.
yeah, which is just a nice, um, yeah, it's just nice to hear.
Absolutely.
And
I happen to know a fair amount of adults right now whose parents, to their face, were always pushing them to do better, do better, do better, and they never
mhm,
heard them. But and it did turn out later on they found out that their parents to others were bragging about how great they were and how wonderful they were, but they never did that in the presence of the kid because they wanted to keep pushing them or whatever, whatever the parents' struggle was.
yeah,
And it really does make a difference when they hear you talking them up to your friends and their community and
mhm,
everything. It helps them to know that not only do you support them privately, you support them publicly. It helps them to understand that you value what they have done and all the
yeah,
successes they've had so far, and that you value them as a person.
yeah. And it's a very common story. What you just told is that parents will tell other people how hard their kids work and how proud they are, and to the child, because they want to teach the child, they want to create them the best human being they can,
Yeah,
and they do that by always pushing. And I go back to when a little kid waves bye bye and you clap, that
yeah,
child beams and waves bye bye for the next 30 minutes just
right.
because you gave them that positive feedback.
Yeah.
We really do learn really well with positive feedback, and we just want to do it again and again and again.
Hmm.
And you think about the little kid where you just clap your hands, and whatever that child just did, you're not going to get them to stop.
Yeah.
So
It's like
yeah,
when you
brag.
fake sneeze at them to make them laugh, and now everything is
Yes,
a fake sneeze. They just will not
yes,
stop.
they'll do it forever. Yeah. So yeah, don't be afraid to praise your child in encouragement in an honest way, just by
Absolutely. Yeah.
simply just saying what they did. Like I mentioned about the Spanish words, he learned so many Spanish words I don't even understand him I don't understand him anymore, or he studied so hard on for that test and he came home with an A, or he was so worried about giving that speech and he went up there and he gave that speech even though he was scared to do it. That's what encouragement sounds like. Just something where they can then internalize it and say, "Oh yeah, I did do that." So you want to acknowledge that learning is difficult. You want to acknowledge that failing is part of learning. It's just a normal, natural part of learning, and it's not actually failing. It's learning. And you want to hear you want your child to hear those positive things either right to their face or to overhear you saying them to other people. And that kind of encouragement is very similar to that sneeze or that laugh or whatever makes that little baby do the same thing over and over again. So that's how you would encourage your child to try something difficult and stick to it until they learn to do it really well.